Okay. Hello and welcome, everyone. I'm Isaac Henley, and today I'm joined by Member of Parliament Lisa Hepfner. Thank you so much for making the time.
My pleasure.
We're going to talk about your journey into politics and then dive into some bills, one of which you're heavily involved in. And then we're going to get into some leadership questions, and we'll end on some fun rapid fire questions to sort of humanize it. To me, this is about connecting Parliament to people, and thanks again for your time.
No, like I say, it's my pleasure. It's always good to talk to young people who are interested in politics. I think you have to get involved and you have to know what's going on, or you can't complain about anything.
Exactly. Why scrutinize if you don't know what's going on?
Exactly. So thank you for the conversation. I think it's really important to have these types of conversations.
Awesome. Thank you so
And
much.
for
Let's
people
start.
to realize that politicians are just normal, real people also.
Yeah, exactly. You guys have live every single day lives just like the rest of us.
All
Um,
right, I'm ready.
let's start with you. So before politics, you were a journalist in Hamilton for over 20 years. Do I have that correct?
That is
Okay.
right.
What was the moment you decided you sat there and you were like, okay, I want to be in politics, not just report on it?
Well, I think because I reported on politics for so long, I sat in so many city council meetings. I did a lot of reporting out of Queen's Park. I knew a lot of politicians. And after 20 years at CHCH, which I did after working at the Hamilton Spectator, um, the craft of journalism and the world of journalism had gotten so much smaller. And I didn't see myself advancing in it anymore. So honestly, while I was still working full time at CHCH, I went back to school. I went to McMaster and did a Master of Communications Management, which was like a part-time master's degree, half MBA, half communications. At the end of it, so I finished it in 2020, right at the end of COVID, or right when COVID was starting, and still didn't know what I was going to do. And the following summer, I got a call from my thesis supervisor and he asked me to run. And I was like, yeah, of course, that's exactly what I should do. So honestly, I maybe had an inkling always that I might want to get involved in politics because I felt that my experiences gave me good background to be an effective politician. But I needed that nudge and I needed to know that people would support me. So I don't think I would have run if I hadn't been asked. But I think that even though it wasn't an intention, all of the experiences in my life sort of led me to being a really good fit for me.
Well, we thank you for running because it's important that we have these conversations and it's important that, we have people that are sitting there and willing to be like, okay, you know what? I've never delved into this before. Why not? What do I have to lose? And so I was just going to ask, like, how did your journalism work in the community shape your view of representation of everyday people as it pertains to struggles, promises versus gaps?
That's a great question. I think everything I did every single day. And that was part of why I struggled to find the next job because I did so much in journalism. I wasn't an anchor, I mean, the odd time, but I was for more than 20 years in Hamilton, a day-to-day journal. I produced a story every single day, which meant being in the community with whatever's happening and talking to people about what was going
Yeah.
on in their life. So I joke when I started my first campaign, knocking on doors was old hat for me. I've been knocking on doors my whole career, talking to strangers. Being able to talk to people is a key part of being a journalist. You learn so much from that. And I didn't want all of that knowledge to go to waste, all of those relationships I'd built go to waste. And so as soon as I thought about running and knowing that I'd have support to run, I realized it was the perfect fit because of all those relationships I've built, because of all I've learned. I mean, you do research on a particular topic every single day, and so almost everything I touch in Parliament, I have a little backstory about how I know something about that particular topic. So you just get such a wide-ranging experience as a day-to-day journalist. And I'm really sad about how journalism is suffering these days. When I started at the Hamilton Spectator in 1999 after journalism school, there were hundreds of journalists in the newsroom. There was, the building is still on Ford Street there, overlooking the 403.
You drive up
That
to Hamilton, you can't
newsroom,
miss it.
No, but like there's other things in there now.
Yeah,
But it was like there was a sports section, there was a Burlington Reporter section, there was a business section, there was an art section, there was a center like uh, uh crime daily news section. So like there were so many people that you had to work really hard to make sure you had an excellent story that day. Otherwise, it wouldn't make it into the paper. So it was competition between each other. Today, I don't know, there's a handful of journalists at the Hamilton Spectator. They don't have a newsroom at all. They're mostly working from home. And it's
really.
a completely different experience. And so, it's a big change from the way I grew up, old school, I like to say.
It sounds like we need to do an entire part two on the decline of journalism on in the Hamilton Spectator. That's a whole different topic
Not
in of
just
itself.
I don't mean to say it's just the Hamilton Spectator. That's just an example of what's happening all across the country and really all over the world with the rise of social media and
Yeah.
internet companies.
And I completely agree with that. And that's and such an interesting topic in and of its own. I'm gonna have to create a whole nother episode with that. I was just gonna ask, this is the last question for this part, but Hamilton Mountain has its own challenges. What do you see locally within your riding that federal MPs can actually impact, such as like sort of things that get lost in Ottawa talk?
The really big thing impacting Hamilton Mountain right now is the tariffs on steel.
Yeah.
We still have a lot of steel industry in Hamilton. The steel producers, Stelco and Dofasco, ArcelorMittal Dofasco, may not be in the riding, but a lot of people who work there live on the riding. We have Walters Group is a steel derivative company. They are on Hamilton Mountain. It's a huge, beautiful manufacturing facilities, and they make beautiful world-renowned structures with their steel,
Yeah.
including the roof of the House of Commons chamber where we sit right now. I've, done a speech room like these tree-inspired beams were built on Hamilton Mountain by Walters Group.
It's crazy. I
And
didn't even know
so
that.
yeah, and so, people are really worried about their livelihoods. They're worried about the future of the steel industry. And that's been the real, other than my private members bill that I know you want to talk about also.
Hmm.
Um, Talking to the steel industry, visiting like weekly meetings with the steel industry stakeholders to find out what they need, how we can help. But really, it's all about negotiations with our neighbors to the south. And a lot of it is out of our hands, but we're doing whatever we can to sustain that industry. But that is the most urgent, I would say, issue on the mountain right now.
Okay, and honestly, I'm just going to follow up on that really quickly. So to explain to the average, maybe university student or even average Hamiltonian resident who's not as, aware of what tariffs are and how they would affect Hamilton with DeFasco and the other steel companies, how would you say, like, if you had to sort of drill down and like flesh out how that affects Hamilton?
Well, so many companies and so many people's livelihoods depend on the steel industry. So we have two steel producers out of three in the entire country. Two of them are in Hamilton.
Hmm.
We have lots of like that's what I mean, derivative companies, other, Hamilton Steel Cars, Hamilton Steel Car is makes rail cars. There's a lot of other companies that rely on the steel industry and the vibrancy of the steel industry. But half of their market used to be in the United States. So like
Yeah.
they're vibrant companies because we had this free trade with the United States, and they were able to trade back and forth across the border. Now there's so much uncertainty and there's tariffs for the stuff they try and sell across the border that a lot of their customers are ordering stuff just from the US suppliers. And so so people are not making as much money as they used to. They're worried about their jobs, they're worried about their futures, they're not spending as much money. So that's affecting other things, as other like stores, for example. People aren't spending as much money. So it's a I think we have it in hand. I think we'll get through this, but when I say that's the most pressing issue on Hamilton Mountain today, that's why, because It affects people deeply when there's financial uncertainty.
And this is so helpful because you say it's one of the most pressing issues as pertains to Hamilton Mountain, because people are so uncertain about what's going to happen, and now we're actually able to, sit and have a conversation about it and sort of break it down so that the average person who, again, is not in political science can actually like understand it, digest it, and sit there and be like, oh, okay, I understand this. Now I'm feeling a little bit more reassured, and that's the
Good.
goal of this. That's what I want to do.
Good. Me too. Reassure people. Go
Awesome.
buy things.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Um, awesome. So can we move on to some policy blocks now?
Sure.
Okay, so I want to start with Bill C-223, which is the Keeping Children Safe Act. So you've introduced this. This is a private member's bill.
Correct.
And for those who haven't heard of it, what does this bill actually do? Like if you were to say in plain language, and following up on that, what's the real world change for these families?
So this is my private members bill. I'm not sure if you know how the private members bill system works in our parliament, but every new session, there's a pool of every name of every elected MP that goes into a pod, and the clerk or somebody pulls each name one at a time and creates a list of precedents. So if you're on that list up high, you have an opportunity to present a private member's bill, which is a rare opportunity because as soon as the session ends, the whole thing starts all over again. So if you're number 120 out of 343, you may or may not have a chance to present a private member's bill. I basically won that lottery because I'm number 4 on the list out of 343 MPs. So I've already had first reading of my private member's bill, and next week I'll have second reading and the first hour, which means the first hour of debate. And I'll have a news conference to try and to show and bringing survivors together to show people what it's all about. It's called the Keeping Children Safe Act. I found out about this problem in divorce court a year or so ago when I met with the National Association of Women in the Law, and they brought a bunch of survivors together who had been manipulated by their exes through the divorce court system. So because of the way the divorce system has been working over the past 20 years, there's been a rise in accusations of parental alienation. So even if it's child sex abuse allegations or, violent intimate partner violence accusations, the accused partner will say, oh no, that didn't really happen. The other partner is just trying to turn my children against me. And the courts, you often will disregard the allegations of abuse and will award custody, change custody, and give the children to the person accused of abuse. And they were not allowed to have any contact with the parent that they're most attached to.
That's horrible.
So, I couldn't even believe this is how I talked to children who had been sent across the border to reunification therapy with someone who, had advised the courts in the first place that they needed this therapy, was making money off of it then after that. And then it was like some torturous brainwashing that they subjected children to. The things you saw your father do didn't really happen. Your mother's just twisting your brain. You have to kiss your father. And evidence of parental alienation could have been as little as not having a photo of your ex-husband displayed on the wall. And because the courts keep ruling this way, it's created jurisprudence. So it's like children are being treated in divorce court like they're property that must be split equally between parties.
I was actually going to touch on that later. It's funny that you said that. I was sorry to interrupt. I was just going to say, I believe that what I really respect is it's not a political gesture. It's sort of a moral correction. And I'm somebody who, I got into philosophy a little while ago, and I believe in, we have moral absolutes, but it takes something we already know is true, and that children aren't property, and that control and intimidation can harm like just as deeply as violence. And like, it sort of like forces the law to like look at and recognize this truth. And that's what I like. Sorry, continue. I had to jump in there.
No, I think that's exactly the point. The whole point of the bill is to give children a voice. Let's talk to the kids. Let's see what they have to say. Let's let the judge talk to the kids behind closed doors without fear that either parent will hear what the child has said. You know, the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of the Child says if a child's old enough to have an opinion, we should listen to that opinion.
I agree.
And so this legislation, in my view, it's a massive change to the Divorce Act. It changes the whole premise, this
Hmm.
premise that children are property to be split equally and that the ideal is always shared custody. And it says, no, let's look at this individual situation and decide what is best for the child, what is in the best interest of the child, not what is most fair for each parent that is fighting in this situation.
Yeah,
So
and
that is what the bill does. It is a tall order. It's going to be difficult to get through, but I'm heavily committed and invested in seeing it happen.
well, if Ottawa wasn't 6 hours away, I would love to be there next week. No, not skip class, but no, I'd love to see it. I was just gonna ask and follow up on that. Like, how does that work in practice in terms of like giving them the voice? Like, would they have like advocates or like interviews or like would they have a chance to speak directly in court?
I think the bill is not that prescriptive. It just says, let's listen to the child. Let's have an opportunity to determine what is the child's opinion in this. And, you know, oftentimes children will submit even written briefs and
Yeah.
they're not listened to by the courts. And I've heard that from survivors. I've had so many survivors come out to me too since I've started working on this legislation that I had to almost stop talking to them all. Like it was too much. It's just
Yeah.
happening too much. So other jurisdictions have clamped down on this. Colorado, for example, has banned family reunification therapy, which is a whole cottage industry that I don't believe is legitimate. And and because some states, for example, have clamped down, and I think there's one country also that totally has banned um, accusations of parental alienation. But they're all moving into Canada now, all those companies, all the
Mhm.
money, people making money off of it. So it's become rampant throughout the system. So it's not like you'd think, oh, this can't be happening very often. It's happening so often that some lawyers are telling women not to leave their abusive husbands because they may lose their children.
Mhm.
So it's dire. And when I had an opportunity, when I first met these survivors, I brought them to Status of Women Committee and had them all testify at committee. So all of their voices are already on the record on the Hansard. When I won the PMB lottery, I knew that I could do more than just get those voices on the Hansard. So I'm raising this issue. People don't understand, you know, how the decisions being made in divorce court just don't seem to be rational, in my
Yeah.
opinion, in a lot of cases.
So I think what you're saying, rather than prescription, it actually sort of, rather than saying, okay, no, the kids are going to be, they're going to do interviews or they're going to have advocates. Basically, what you're saying is what it's going to do is going to amend it so that, okay, no, we're forced to look at, no, these kids have to have a voice, pretty much in general, rather than prescribing an actual way of sort of,
Exactly.
okay, okay,
So each individual case might be different in the way,
yeah.
like it depends on the age of the child, depends on each different situation. But it just says you have to take the child's opinion into account when you're making custody decisions.
Perfect, and I love that. I was just gonna go into it and also say some critics also say that some critics would say that letting children express a preference could possibly. Do you think that this could possibly open some sort of door to manipulation, such as like one parent trying to coach or influence the child? And like, how would you say that the bill could possibly guard against that? Because it could go both ways. Obviously, I think it. Yeah.
No bill can guard against every
Mhm.
possibility, and everything you do will have repercussions that you don't intend. I wouldn't say this bill is necessarily perfect in its form. I don't know that. I want it to go to committee where a federal committee will go through it bit by bit. Experts will look at it and we'll get it to the proper form. Um, and there will be people who, you know, there will be repercussions, I'm sure, in some ways. Um, but I think what's important is to change what's happening now in the courts
Yeah.
and change the attitude of how children are treated in custody disputes.
Well, yeah, there's going to be
And
scrutiny of,
I'll
yeah.
say there's like people will say, but there is parental alienation. Like I've seen it happen. I have excuses. And the bill doesn't say it doesn't exist. Like it's considered a junk science by many. It's
Hmm.
not proven. There was in 1980s, this apparently a discredited psychologist came up with this theory in order to give abusive fathers access to their children. And that's how it's being used for the last few decades in courts. Um, but you will, I mean, parents will talk badly about the other parent to their children.
Yeah.
The only thing we don't know is how that will affect the child. It's
Hmm.
different for every child. In some children, it will work. In some children, it won't. It'll turn them against the person who's trying to manipulate the child, right?
Yeah.
But the divorce courts shouldn't be trying to improve relationships between children and their estranged parent. I don't think that's the role of the divorce court. I
Hmm.
don't think that should be what's in the Divorce Act. I don't think that's what they should be doing with custody orders.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm saying, like, take every situation in its own, but operate in the best interest of the child in every instance.
Yeah. And I was going to add on to that and say, I feel like for every single bill, there's going to be some sort of scrutiny, because people look at ideas and whether or not they find them wanting, whether or not they find them lacking, there's going to be scrutiny there. I think that's what's important is the nobility of what the idea of what you're trying to put forth with that bill, and to safeguard that children aren't property and that they should have a voice in court, and that it's important that we protect for the greater good.
I will say that there are movements that are pushing for the opposite of what my bill does. So,
Interesting.
fathers' rights groups or groups pushing for shared parenting to be the standard and enshrining that in the Divorce Act, which is the opposite of what I'm saying. I'm saying a child is not necessarily best off with both parents. That may be the case, but let's do an investigation and decide that before you make custody decisions.
It sounds like those groups would be conflating the two ideas when they're not necessarily like proof of causation between the two. Do you know what I mean? Like yeah, that doesn't make
In
sense.
many situations, co-parenting is the best for
Yeah.
like, and parents do a great job and they can work together in many situations. But we have to understand the, pervasiveness of coercive control, and that when abusive partners leave a relationship, they don't stop the abuse.
Hmm.
They don't stop the manipulation, and they've been using the courts to continue their coercive control.
That's very, very well said. Thank you for that. I have one more question on this policy, but if this passes, what change would you hope to see 5 years from now in how families, courts, or even kids themselves think about safety and fairness?
Well, I think I've answered that question, honestly. I want to give kids a voice. I want the
Yeah.
courts to uh, realize the impact of coercive control on relationships and that it doesn't end at the end of a relationship, and um, you know, to change their focus from trying to repair relationships between parents and their estranged children to trying to give children a healthy and safe childhood.
Yeah, I really, really love that. And I think most people can agree, like protecting children from these invisible forms of control is probably one of the most compassionate things that can happen. And it sounds like this bill aims to turn compassion into structure. So I wish you all the best of luck with that next week.
Thank you. You can find ways to sign up online to support the bill. You can watch it Thursday next week, the 23rd of October, live on CPAC or on the House of Commons channel, Parle View. You can watch the debate start for the second reading, and
I
hopefully the news outlets will pick it up also in the news conference we planned for that afternoon.
I will be in class and I will have it in my phone, like right beside my laptop as I'm typing
You can
notes.
watch it later. You don't have to even watch it live.
So last question. This is just advice to students and young voters. What would you tell a student watching this who's frustrated with politics or doesn't think it matters?
I would say get involved. Like if if your opinion is just from scrolling on social media and that's how you're getting your feeling about politics, get out of your house, go knock on your MP's door, join a constituency youth council, show up to a local riding association to knock on doors and volunteer. Like you can try different parties, you can try different people, you can see what fits. but get involved.
Yeah.
Go to City Hall and watch it. Go to Queen's Park. There's a gallery. If you're in Ottawa, let me know. But there's a gallery. You can watch this. So I would say go and see for yourself. Educate yourself that way by actually meeting people, asking questions, like excellent questions like you have today, Isaac.
I tried my best.
No, very well. As a former journalist with much experience, they were excellent questions, excellent interview. And I would say in life, get out and do things. That's what I always did. I did a whole lot of different things. I speak 3 languages now, and I'm fully prepared to be an effective member of parliament. So that's always my advice to young people. Don't let your inhibitions hold you back. Don't be in your head, and be confident in yourself and just do things. Travel, go see things, participate, volunteer, work. But the more experiences you have, the more value you find in everything you've done throughout your life, later in life. That's what I've found. So just keep
Amazing.
doing things. Have fun.
Keep doing things and have fun. I'll keep that in note for sure. That'll be like my life slogan saying.
It keeps you happy through life, let me tell you.
Does. Yeah. Thank you so much, MP Hepfner. This was fantastic. I really appreciate your candor and willingness to dig in. Before we wrap up, is there one last little line that you'd like to say for any McMaster students who might be listening to this?
Thank you for listening, and thank you, Isaac, for allowing me time on this platform to connect with young people. I think your voice matters also. And please reach out to my office if you'd like to get involved with my constituency youth council, which is primarily made up of young political science students from McMaster.
I appreciate the invite, and I will for sure be looking into that. Thank you so much.
Amazing.
And I hope you have a good rest of your weekends, and good luck again next week.
Thanks again, Isaac. Take care.